This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, other holders. Jeff Cutastrophe and welcome you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. And normally I do a birthday boy on a living player and all that. But unfortunately, because I have a little rule with the birthday boys saying that within a year, try my best not to have back-to-back days with players from the same sport. Yesterday I did Richard Sherman for football. So I had a football player in mind, but because of the no repeat rule, that person will get to next year's thing. But as is, this is a legend. And I mean, after all, I don't know why I like foregone this guy, but because of the rule of being a living player. Anyway, yeah, it's Gordie Howe. You can guess that. Not a lot of people do videos and have a picture of Gordie Howe with the Harvard Whalers on it, so why not? So Gordie Howe was born March 31st, 1928 in Floral, Saskatchewan, one of 9 siblings. And his father was a laborer during the Great Depression and all that. He was actually mildly dyslexic growing up, but physical, all that. He was 6 feet tall in his mid-teens and all that. Howe quit school during the Depression to work in construction, but then left Saskatoon to pursue his hockey career. So he was invited to the Rangers to their training camp in Winnipeg. The Rangers wanted Howe to sign a C form, which would have given the Rangers the rights to Gordie Howe and to play at Notre Dame, the famous Catholic school in Wilcox, Saskatchewan, known for building players and all that. However, Howe did not feel it was a good fit for him, and he was not too pleased. He didn't want to go play for Notre Dame school, saying, "I'm not Catholic." So he decided to go back home to Saskatchewan and declined the Rangers' offer. There was also the story that Ranger players were not really too keen on Howe, like at that training camp in Winnipeg, so they basically tried to destroy him. However, Red Wing scout Fred Pinckney discovered him and invited Howe to the camp in Windsor. The Red Wings would sign him to the C form and assign him to the Galt Red Wings. But the league had a maximum number of Western players allowed by league, and the Red Wings did prefer to develop older players. It was just limited. But what also worked for Detroit was that many of Hal's Saskatchewan friends actually were on the team, so that made him fit. So then he went to Omaha, the USHL, and as a 17-year-old, he would score 48 points in 51 games. All that. So anyway, Hal knew what he could do. So anyway, Gordie Howe would make his NHL debut for the Red Wings October 16th, 1946, at age 18. He wore number 17 at first. And then when Roy Conacher went to Chicago, he was given the chance to wear number 9. He didn't really feel much. But 9 would entitle him to a lower berth on the train and road trips. So he's like, whatever. So he became a good goal scorer and a willingness to fight, too. All that. And of course, the term Gordie Howe hat trick refers to a player who scores a goal, an assist, and a fight in the same game. Although Gordie Howe would only do that twice. Gordie Howe was an icon and all that. He actually was the top 5 in scoring in the NHL for 20 straight seasons. Can you imagine? Not many players can go through 20 seasons, for one thing. And then Howe even scored 20 or more goals in 22 straight seasons between 1949 and 1971. Which is still like, holy crow, 22 seasons. You can't even play that much. Gordie Howe was a legend and all that. Part of the production line with Sid Abel and Ted Lindsay. They were pretty good and all that. They were actually 1, 2, 3 in NHL scoring. Unfortunately, Howe's career almost ended before it started. In 1950, there wasn't a check from Toronto captain Peter Kennedy into the boards during the 1950 playoffs, but it was terrible. Howe would have a skull fracture and his cheekbone and nose were broken, and all that. The severity of the fracture was that they needed surgery to relieve the pressure on his brain. He missed the rest of the playoffs, but still, the Red Wings did win the Stanley Cup, although it took him 7 against the Rangers. Howe played every game because of severe injuries. However, Howe would have a severe facial tic every time uh, because of his injuries. But he still won scoring total by 20 points when he came back from injury. It was like, what the heck? This guy is, like, not human. Of course, Howe and Richard would have that great rivalry of who's the best right winger around. Both could play rough. Both were regular challengers for the scoring title, and both wore number 9 as right wingers. So anyway, it was just a big rivalry and all that. The Red Wings and Habs would square off in 4 Stanley Cup finals in the 1950s, with Detroit winning 3 of them, 52, 54, 55, Montreal in 56. So yeah, so he basically had Gordie Howe. Gordie Howe had Rocket's number. Anyway, yeah. So the Red Wings slumped in the late 60s, mostly because the NHL would expand from 6 to 12 teams, and then the competition would be a bit stiffer and all that. Gordie Howe played on a line with Frank Mahovlich and Alex Delfecchio, and scored 103 points, surpassing 100 points for the only time in his career, and he was 40 at the time. Anyway, Howe would retire after the 1971 season because of a chronic wrist problem. And I mean, 25 years in the NHL, that's still amazing what he did. He took a job in the Wings front office. He was even offered a chance to be the Islanders' first head coach, but he declined, fortunately. Gordie Howe was a legend. 6 MVPs. 52, 53, 57, 58, 60, and 63. And he's second in that category to Gretzky's 9 trophies. So yeah, his number 9 was retired in 1972. He was even named Officer of the Order of Canada in 1971. But for some strange reason, Gordie Howe's zest for hockey was huge. He was given a contract to play with the Houston Aeros of the World Hockey Association, and he took it with the fact that Mark and Marty Howe both were signed to contracts. And he was not happy with how the Red Wings front office treated him, so he got Houston to back-to-back league championships. And at 46, he was named the WHA's most valuable player. It was like 46. Geez, I'm not even that old. Anyway, Howe would play with the Aeros till 1977 and then joined the New England Whalers alongside his sons. So, anyway, it was huge. Gordie Howe was part of the 1974 Summit Series and the 1979 WHA All-Star Game, which had a 3-game series between the WHA All-Stars and Dynamo Moscow. So Gretzky and Howe would be on a line with each other. So yes, so he played for the Whalers, and then Hartford was going to join the NHL in that expansion. And that. While the Red Wings actually held Gordie's NHL rights, the Whalers and Wings reached a gentleman's agreement that Detroit agreed not to reclaim them. So Howe would play in the 1980 season, played all 80 games, and scored 41 points. When Hartford lost to Montreal in Game 3 of their series that ended, playoff series that ended it, he was 52 years and 10 days old. By contrast, I'm 37 years, 356 days at the time of this taping. Well, at a time today. So, anyway, that's just amazing. And it's weird how Gordie Howe was a legend and all that. He was on the line. He was on a line with Hartford with Bobby Hull and Dave Keon. It was funny how you saw Bobby Hull, a Blackhawks icon, Gordie Howe, a Detroit icon, and Dave Keon, a Leafs legend, on the same line for the Whalers of all teams. And yes, fortunately though, Scotty Bowman named Howe to the All-Star game roster, and it was amazing. And ironically enough, that All-Star game was held at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. And he was given a massive standing ovation. The rink announcer only had to say number 9, and they knew who it was. He actually picked up an assist, and the Wales Conference won that game. So yeah, he's an icon. He was actually third in the list of the greatest players of the 21st century behind Wayne Gretzky and Bobby Orr. Inducted to Canada's Walk of Fame in 2000. He had a bronze statue in front of Jules Arena in honor of him in 2007. The statue is 12 feet tall and weighs over 4,500 pounds. But they actually relocated that statue to Saskatchewan at the SaskTel Center once Jules Arena closed. In fact, the international there's a bridge named after Gordie Howe in 2015 between Detroit and Windsor. Anyway, so he was a legend. He and Colleen Howe were a power couple. They were married in 1953, having 2 sons, Marty and Mark, who played in the NHL. Marty would not really have much of an NHL career, but Mark did. Mark played many years and was actually inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2011, which was pretty good. Their third son is a radiologist in Toledo by the name of Murray, and only daughter Kathy lives in Texas. Colleen Howe was an icon. She was one of the most powerful women in hockey. She was a great agent. She was a great person and all that. And represented Gordie and Mark in their financial things and all that. She did die in 2009 at age 76, but she was a legend. Gordie Howe had actually a younger brother named Vic who actually played 33 games for the New York Rangers in the 50s. He would die June 10th, 2016 at his son Mary's home. There's public visitation on June 14, 2016, and a lot of people were there. Wayne Gretzky, Scotty Bowman, and Tigers legend Al Kaline were pallbearers at his funeral. So he was he was named Mr. Hockey, and it was just, amazing what he could do, all that. Howe was a legend. He even played in the IHL for Detroit for one shift at age 69. It's like, wow, can you imagine that? Howe's legend is huge. In fact, when it comes to popular culture, there were a couple of major stories about Gordie Howe. You know the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Cameron Fry, aka Alan Rickman, wore his iconic number 9 and all that. And Gordie Howe was part of a Simpsons episode called Bart the Lover. It was when Bart tries to get revenge on Mrs. Krabappel for taking away his yo-yo. So he decides to make up a guy named Woodrow to please Mrs. Krabappel, who was looking for things on the dating scene. And he pasted a picture of Gordie Howe's picture from 1950 and all that. In fact, at the end of the episode, there's a still frame, and Gordie Howe's stats are shown, which was amazing how they could do it. The early seasons of The Simpsons were just that great. He's just a legend, too. In the regular season in the NHL, he scored 801 goals, 1,850 points in 1,767 games. And he put up 160 playoff points in 157 games, which is still amazing. His records are amazing. His awards: 6-time scoring champ, 51, 52, 53, 54, 57, and 63. 5-time goal scoring leader, 51, 52, 53, 57, 63. 6-time MVP, 52, 53, 57, 58, 60, 63. Lots of All-Star games. And 4 Stanley Cups in 50, 52, 54, 55. This is an amazing record. Most NHL regular season games played with one team, 1,687 with the Red Wings. For contrast, you have to play more than 20. You have to play just over 21 seasons in the NHL. What, 80 games? Not just say 80 games for a round number. 21 seasons to even come close to that number. Most regular season games played in the NHL and WHA combined 2,186. When you add the playoffs, it's 2,421. Most NHL and WHA goals in a regular season, 975. Not even Gretzky did that. Most NHL seasons played 26. That's just pure nuts. And he played 6 years in the WHA as well. Most goals by a right winger, 801. Ovechkin is a left winger, so yeah, Ovechkin. 22 consecutive 20 goal seasons. 22. Can you imagine that? Oldest player to play in the NHL, 52 years, 11 days in his final game, and no other player had even hit one past 48. He's number one in Red Wings history in goals, points, and games played, but second in assists. I don't know who does he even have that record. I don't know. 23 NHL All-Star game appearances, and he did have the most regular season games until, for some effed up reason, Patrick Marleau broke that record. You don't break one of Gordie Howe's records that way. I know I'm pissed off of he got rid of Gordie Howe's goal scoring thing and now second overall, but Marleau. But yeah, Patrick Marleau. Okay, he's a great player. He was kind of crap with the Leafs, but still. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, he was an icon and all that. He just knew how to play. And play he did. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.